Andy, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How's it going, Josh? Good morning.
Good. Good morning to you. So we have an awesome topic today. You and I have talked about doing this one for quite a while. So you and I have accumulated, 20 years or more of health and fitness wisdom and experience. So you and I are going to come up with the top five or five important pieces of wisdom that we're going to share with our audience when it comes to health and fitness. The Co-Movement Gym podcast is supported by Native Path Supplements and Lombardi Chiropractic. Mention this podcast or click on the links in the episode description for a nice discount on us. I want to first kick this off with sort of like a little bit around like why you and I are choosing to talk about this. And you had put this in an email to me, and this was cool. And I'll just read it to people. Like, knowledge comes from books in school, wisdom comes from age and experience. And even though we have a lot of, knowledge in health and fitness, like in our early 20s, you and I have a lot more wisdom now. We're in
Yeah.
our early 50s.
Yeah.
And so there's a big difference there. And, I added to this, wisdom comes from doing and being in the trenches for a period of time, right?
Yeah.
Many years. You have to be an active participant to accumulate wisdom. And the example I wrote down here was, someone that watches bow hunting on YouTube
Mhm.
versus the bow hunter in the field for many years, right?
Mhm.
There's a huge difference there. So, yeah, I just wanted to sort of separate the difference there with wisdom and,
Yeah.
and
Wisdom
knowledge.
comes from experience. Yep.
You want to add anything to that or
No, that was
no?
exactly right. Yeah. Just that knowledge comes from books, but wisdom comes from experience. Like you said, you got to be doing it, and you learn a lot more lessons than you can possibly learn from watching videos or listening to podcasts or reading books. Doing it is where you'll learn things the most viscerally, and you learn lessons that stick with you. You really learn what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. And, one thing I've noticed is like so few people today stay with something long enough to accumulate wisdom, right?
Yep.
They bounce from topic to topic, specialty to specialty, hobby to hobby. They do 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 2 months. But very rarely do you find individuals that have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of experience. So last night I went fishing on Oneida Lake
Hmm.
with Asher and Ginny and a cousin. And we were with a 73-year-old local fisherman that has fished that lake since his late 20s. And he's written 5 books on Oneida Lake and fishing. And like, the wisdom, like I was like a kid in a candy store, like just asking questions and like why. This guy was just a vast amount of knowledge.
Yeah. That he's just gained through years of experience. Yeah. Nobody knows more about that than him at this point.
Exactly. And he really knew a lot about catching certain species, right? He didn't know a lot about other species, but he knew. So in that rabbit hole, the guy was just an open book, and, he's not spouting off something he heard on a podcast. Like it's just
Right. Right.
lived experience. So, all right, sweet. So let's kick this off. Andy, you want to start with your first one? And again, to reiterate to people listening, this is in health and fitness, not life wisdom. I don't think I have enough of that quite yet.
Yeah. And these are things, when we started doing this in our early or our mid teens and early 20s, we might have had a lot of knowledge from all the reading of magazines and books that we were doing at the time. But there's stuff I know now that I just couldn't have known when I was 20. So if we want to kick it off, maybe one of them is that consistency is the most important factor. I learned a lot in my early 20s and teens about how to work out properly, how to execute movements correctly, right form, wrong form, different program design, all that kind of stuff. And I fussed around with those details, but I hadn't been doing it long enough at that point to realize the value of consistency and how that ends up being in the long run the most important factor. There's a phrase that gets thrown around sometimes in fitness that I like, that a bad program, a quote unquote bad program, is better than a good program. A bad program done inconsistently. I'm sorry, geez. A bad program done consistently is better than a good program done inconsistently.
Mhm.
And Yeah, it's taken a lot of years to like just see that happen over and over again to realize that that is the case. You know, you could have the best program in the world and you do it well, but if you do it this week, skip next week, you do it for 3 weeks in a row, stop doing it for a couple months, on the wagon, off the wagon, and so on, you end up not getting anywhere. You take a couple steps forward, couple steps back, couple steps forward, couple steps back. But people who just show up regularly, you know, 2 days a week or 3 days a week, whatever your thing is. And that's what you do. And you do it week after week after week, month after month after month. It almost doesn't even matter what you're doing or how good your program design is. If you're showing up regularly and consistently for a long time, you end up getting results. So that's one of the things that I learned over time.
Man, is that true. And that consistency is, I guess, the word I'm thinking of. And this isn't to scare people, but like it's boring in some respect, right? Like continually sticking with the same thing long enough to get really good at it
Mhm.
or improve upon. I think we're chasing entertainment and excitement, too much, right?
Mhm.
Maybe when it comes to health and fitness, whether it's a new diet or a new supplement or a new training routine, but like you said, just let's just zoom way out like 50,000 feet and like just moving your body
Mhm.
every week. You said 2 to 3 times, 3 to 5
Mhm.
times, whatever.
Yeah, moving pretty much every day, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, because you and I see clients all the time and we hear the same thing over and over. Like, I just had a really busy week. I didn't
Hmm.
get to it.
Yep.
And so they took a week off. And
Hmm.
like, I would wager that you probably can't remember the last time you took a week off from like,
Something. Yeah.
yeah, like all physical activity, right?
Now, even when we're on vacation, we're going hiking or something.
Correct, correct. And even like, I don't know. Generally, you and I don't get sick for a week at a time. But like, even when I had Lyme's disease, I was sick for like 8 weeks, sick.
Yeah.
I still did stuff. I remember like it hurt. It didn't feel great. I walked. I did push-ups. I still moved around. I was in the gym coaching. But yeah, so consistency, that's a huge one. I don't have that on here, but no, that is
Well,
huge, huge.
another
Yeah.
thing you said, and maybe this will be one of your points, but you said consistency is boring. Like one of the things we could have put on this list was that the boring stuff is what gets you
Yes.
results instead of the exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Consistency is one of those boring things. And like you pointed out, there's going to be highs and lows. Sometimes you're not going to be motivated. Sometimes you're not going to be making any progress. There's been months and maybe even, a couple years at a point sometimes where I made like no progress or whatever. But
Yeah.
because fitness and health has always been such a priority of mine, it's just been consistently a part of my regular routine. And
Yeah.
even when there's those low points or you're not making progress or whatever, you just keep going. And if you do
Yeah.
that for decades, you end up reaching higher places.
All right, so let's dive into my first one here in terms of wisdom with health and fitness. So, learning proper form and movement mechanics as young as possible. I did not do that, right? I was in the weight room, squatting wrong, deadlifting wrong, doing a lot of things probably at a young age at in an intensity that was too much for how well I was able to move, right? Like keeping, your low back, flat and knees out and whatnot. And so I think it like when we're young, we create damage on our body by moving in ways that we're not quite trained to do. Like no one showed me how to do an air squat properly, right?
Right.
And so I think that you know, I, we have the curriculum, Fit Kids, Fit Future,
Mhm.
that teaches kids, it helps kids with that. But yeah, proper body mechanics. Like I'm not just talking weightlifting in general, but just movement in general. And I think a lot of that does come through play and stuff. But I'm referencing more like, heavier weightlifting. You and I see kids all the time
Oh,
from
yeah.
like 14 to 18 years
Yep.
old that are lifting heavy weights wrong,
Yeah.
and that has long term implications. How many people have we worked with through the years that said they had an old football injury, right? Which obviously, you can't prevent all injuries. I get that.
Right.
But, or I squatted for years wrong, or I wish I knew this. And now they have issues, shoulders, back, knees.
Mhm.
And I'm in that camp too, for sure. I went hard for a long time and didn't pay attention to the form. It was all about lifting more, 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 more.
Yeah.
And there's consequences to that. So looking back, I wish that I had a coach and a mentor to teach me basics, like the scapular basics, protraction, retraction, extension, flexion with the spine, like simple things, probably like 8 to 10 things. And like,
Yeah, I was just gonna
be
say there's not a long list of these things. So there's not like 100 things they need to learn. There's 5 to 10 things, let's say, main things that if you can get those basics of movement down and you understand them, that covers pretty much everything from there on out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like a hollow body, right?
Mhm.
Like an arch
Yep.
on the floor. You're right. Yeah, it's not many, but I do think about that a lot. Like I remember being in the weight room and even really after that, it wasn't until I really dove into CrossFit and working with coaches professionally that I learned this. But like, it was all about 5 more pounds, 10 more
Mhm.
pounds, shorten that range of motion just a little bit. Who cares if your knees are collapsing or your
Right.
back is
You got the weight
rounding?
up.
You got the weight up. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be my first one. So let's
Yeah. No, that's a really good one. That's and I think we're all in the same boat, like, because I am too, like, because part of the problem is there aren't a lot of people out there who do know really good technique and form, who are working with kids and coaching kids on it. I mean, most kids don't have a high school gym teacher or like a personal trainer when you're young or whatever to teach you these things, and most parents don't know, the correct form for how to like hinge and deadlift and squat, that sort of thing. So there's a kind of a lack of opportunity, unfortunately, out there for a lot of young kids to learn this stuff. And most kids are going to be teenagers when they dive into it, and they're just going to try to learn on their own. And it is going to be all about just trying to get the weight up, like it was for us. And then, yeah, you learn that stuff later. But that's why, with all the kids that we've worked at with over the last few years, for me, almost always when I'm working with like high school age or younger, and even older than that, but with kids, it's always about like learning form in the beginning because the form is all over the place and it just looks like an injury waiting to happen to me. It looks like,
yeah.
you kind of grit your teeth and you're like, ooh, like it hurts to watch a little bit. And so, yeah, the first sessions with kids are always like the first year is like just, I don't care about us putting more weight on the bar. I care about us making your movement better.
Yeah. And I look at it from like building a foundation. If we take the first, say, quarter of someone's life building the movement mechanics properly, I think
Hmm.
it builds a huge base and foundation for that last 3 quarters of their life
Hmm.
versus spending the first quarter to half of your life moving shitty and or maybe not moving, but then we're trying to teach you to squat and to move right at 40 or 50. That's a big difference than
Hmm.
12,
Yeah.
or 10, or 16.
Yep.
So I look at
And
it
that's
as like a
why I
pit.
like that you said, like, learn this as young as possible. That's your
Yeah.
main point. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it gets a
Yeah.
lot harder when you get older, and then you're
Yeah.
gonna have potential injuries or dysfunctions that are even harder to correct at that point.
For
This
sure.
kind of ties in with like one of mine on my list was quality, like saying that the quality of movement matters, and we're both basically saying the same thing here because
Yeah.
it was the same thing for me. Like I didn't even know when I was younger that good form or the quality of my movement was the thing. All I cared about was just getting the weight up. Like I thought that the point of lifting was to get the weight from point A to point B. I want that bicep curl to get to my shoulder. I want the overhead press to get over my head. Like, and as long as it makes it there, I've succeeded. I did the thing that I was supposed to do. And
Yes.
it's, years of experience taught me how important the quality of our movement is towards our health.
Mhm.
And now I often think of it as ugly movement versus beautiful movement. That's kind of how I conceptualize it in my mind. Like when you see someone do something with really good form and technique in a way that their body is intended to do it, meaning that it's not putting undue stress in the wrong areas or anything. All the muscles are working together in synchrony the way they're supposed to. It's good for your joints. Like when you see someone do something with good technique, it's beautiful. You might not even know why, but you're like, that looks nice. And when you see someone do it
So
wrong,
true.
you're like, oof, like something I don't, maybe you're not an expert in the field, you don't know why it's wrong, but you're like, that doesn't look as nice as that. And I often like, I want to get people, I would like, it's something I didn't realize until I was older, that there is this difference between, what I call beautiful movement and ugly movement. And I strive to always perform things in a way that I see as beautiful, so to speak,
Yeah.
moving well, moving with high quality. That's become a huge priority of mine that I didn't know it even should be when I was younger.
That's so true. I'm thinking about like when you watch someone at a high level swim or run or climb,
Mhm.
weightlift, Olympic, the snatch and clean and jerk. How beautiful that is. Crisp,
Yep.
clean, tight,
And
perfect.
almost sometimes because it's done so well and it is so beautiful in a way that almost makes it look effortless too, which is one of my favorite compliments. I think it's a good compliment to get if you're into fitness or you're performing an exercise or something, is when someone says, wow, you made that look easy. But like they
Mhm.
really mean it. Like when you watch the best rock climbers in the world, let's say, they're on a route that is insanely difficult that like I could never do in a lifetime of practice. But when they do it, it's like, my God, he makes that look like easier than my warm-up route. Like it
Yeah.
just, it looks so effortless and flowy and like perfect. The movement.
Yeah.
So good quality movement, beautiful movement that looks effortless. I think that's something to strive for, and
Mhm.
I would want my younger self to learn that sooner.
And that piggybacks on exactly what, I had said, which is really cool you had that because I didn't have that, but it's similar but slightly different. I think to have beautiful movement, you need to have quality. You need to have knowledge around proper movement patterns, right?
Yes. Yep.
So yeah,
Yep. You need to
those
know what
piggyback.
anterior and posterior pelvic tilt are. You need to know what scapular depression and protraction and retraction are. You need to know like the different positions the body can make and when they're appropriate and when they're not. And like we said, it's not a lot of stuff to learn. Like kids can be taught this in a few months,
Yeah.
or adults, but the younger the
Mhm.
better.
Yeah, last week I was working with a client and we had to spend like 20 minutes on anterior and pelvic tilt.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the generally for people that haven't practiced that, it's that whole, they lean back with their torso, they lean
Yeah.
forward, and it's like
Yep.
you're not moving your pelvis at all.
No, no, that's lumbar
Yeah.
hyperextension of your spine or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Great one. So I'll jump in now. My second one is missing the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Okay, so what I mean by that is, we are flooded with information today,
Mhm.
right? Like from supplements and training routines and stretches and this and that and that. And I see too many people, and I did this too, where you dive down specific rabbit holes when you don't have the super basics covered. You're
Mm.
missing the elephant in the room. Okay. So
Yep.
what I mean by that is, are you sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night? Right. Are you eating whole quality foods, generally lower in carbs and avoiding drugs and alcohol? Are you exercising, like we said before, 3 to 5 times a week for an hour, right? Do
Mhm.
you have these basics covered instead of running to saying, why am I not sleeping well? Okay. It could be something, right? Where we need to go farther in one direction, but are you covering the basics? And I know for me, I definitely went into too far of specifics when I didn't cover the main foundation. And,
Yep.
and I'm speaking to adults here at any age, but I think as kids or younger, let's say, the first third of a life, constantly revisiting back to by hitting the big players here.
Mhm.
And I think that when we can review that, I do this all the time. Bad training session, why? I look at the big three. And if those were all fine, maybe there's something else I need to, go a little farther in on. But I think it's really, really common, especially younger, to go into GNC, look for a special supplement, or, to try this super shoe, basketball shoe or running shoe or something but you haven't really done all the other 80% of the stuff that gets you the results first. So yeah, I think checking those boxes is big, and then go farther if you need to.
Yeah, yeah. It's everybody is a little impatient, especially when they start, especially when they're younger. But everybody always wants to find that hack or that secret thing that's going to give them results faster. Like you said, the supplement in GNC or the next new training program or whatever. And a lot of times you're shooting yourselves in the foot by not hitting the things that the big levers that really count. You're not getting good sleep, you're not eating properly, you're not recovering like you should be, you're not sometimes you're not performing in the gym like you're putting in the work that you should be doing, like, and you're just trying to look for magic pills or ways out. So that's
Mhm.
such a common problem and things that we see that keeps people from achieving the goals that they want to. And yeah, I think learning to value those big things sooner and really internalizing that those are the things that make a huge difference. And if you don't have that down, the other stuff's a waste of time.
Yeah.
The sooner you can figure that out, the better. But it
Yeah.
usually, and like I didn't figure it out for a long time either, like I was like everybody trying to rush the process or trying to party with my friends on the weekends while I'm trying to work out on weekdays and stuff. And yeah, it's just one of those things that comes with wisdom. You screw yourself over enough times with bad sleep and bad eating or whatever before you finally learn the lesson that this is the stuff that matters. And then you do it the right way. And it's like, why didn't I learn that sooner?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yep.
The bottom of the pyramid, I had a
Yep.
client a few weeks ago ask me, how can I get stronger and gain more muscle? And I I knew w- the where this client was spending time and energy or where they weren't, right? And so
Yep.
I said, instead of working out 1 day a week, try to work out 3 days a week. And then I had said, how many grams of protein are you getting a day? And they said, oh, it's low, maybe like 80 grams. And this is a 160-pound male. And I said, get to 160 grams and then work out, 3 days a week instead of one. And then we'll revisit it. And he looked at me and he goes, that's it. Like, anything I should buy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, no, dude. I was like, do that for a month. And those simple prescriptions are so powerful. I've been given so many through the years, whether it was from James Fitzgerald or Ito or, whoever, just simple, simple, simple.
Yeah.
And, covering the bottom of the pyramid. And then if that client comes in, and the funny thing is I said a few weeks ago, this was probably 2 months ago. A few weeks ago, he checked back in and yeah, huge results. He put on like 8 pounds. He got muscle ups on the rings. He got stronger. He looks thicker. Um, he did another day a week with me. So he did two privates instead of one. And then he did 1 day a week at home and he doubled his protein, mostly like with shakes and eggs. And yeah, he's improving a lot.
Almost anytime that you get a question like that where a client is like, how do I get from where I am to there? The answer is almost always get your foundations in order. Like
Yeah,
work
so
out
true.
with consistency, 3 days a week, eat right, sleep, and that'll get you there.
Yeah.
Like that's
And
it.
then even if I guess we could spin this and say, I see this a lot too in just conversations with like advanced athletes. A lot of times they have that foundation in place and
Mhm.
they're asking certain specific questions. And I see a pattern, and you and I have talked about this, but when was the last time you took a week of deload,
Mhm.
like rested, which is sort of the opposite of what we're telling the other people? But like they're overtraining, they're burnt out, you need to, so again, that's still bottom of the pyramid. This is really
Mhm.
basic stuff. Your training should be done in cycles and whatnot at a higher level. And so like, after my race this weekend, I'll, take an easier week ish.
Mhm.
I'll still train and move just like you did after your 50 miler, but we're seeing it at the high end too. They're asking like, why is this happening? Or why is this constantly nagging? Or I should go to this therapist or something. It's like, when was the last time you took 5 to 7 days to just go a little easier? And they're like, I can't do that. I haven't done that in 20 years.
But what I will say is,
Yeah,
where you don't see it is at the very highest end.
correct.
Like I follow like these professional track athletes and stuff, and they do like the behind the scenes of their life, and it is like
Yes.
they devote hours to the
Yes.
recovery. They're in bed at like 8 o'clock at night. This one track runner I follow gets like 10 hours of sleep a night, and it's like non-negotiable. And they've got like this diet plan that's really healthy and covers all the basics, get all of their nutrition. Like, yeah, the people who really figure it out and really commit to those basics do really well.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. That weakness you're noticing isn't just about age. It's about giving your body the right protein to maintain your strength and independence. While most protein supplements lead to bloating and digestive issues after 50, grass fed beef protein is different. Unlike whey and plant based protein that can cause uncomfortable digestive problems, grass fed beef protein is a dairy free source of complete protein, which means it gives you all the building blocks your body needs in a form that it can actually use. Getting more native path complete protein in your diet helps maintain muscle strength without the stomach issues that make other proteins unbearable. So, if you're looking for a delicious way to add more high quality protein to your diet, look no further than Native Path Complete Protein. At only 110 calories per serving, each scoop packs 20 grams of grass fed beef protein and contains zero sugar, dairy, soy, and gluten. It's available in chocolate and vanilla and tastes unbelievable in anything you add it to: water, coffee, smoothies, you name it. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 bags at a fraction of the price of other brands. Plus, they offer a 360-day no-risk money-back guarantee and an 800 number for any questions about usage, recipes, or ingredients. And you'll speak to a real person that's ready to help. Visit nativepathcompleteprotein.com/co-movement and start your transformation today. Again, that is nativepathcompleteprotein.com/co-movement. Okay, go on to your third one, bud. What do you got?
Let's see, which one do I want to do? I'll do this one. I put down aesthetics, and my note on that was that it's not the most important thing, or not. I should say, it's not the most valuable goal. Let's say when it comes to your working out and stuff. Because when I got into fitness in my mid to late teens, it was all about aesthetics. That was like my whole reason for doing it. Wanted to I was really small. I wanted to look a little bigger, have a little more muscle, maybe have a six pack for the first time, whatever. Like I wanted to look a certain way. And I got into it like I think most teenage boys do. I'll speak because I was there pretty much always for aesthetic purposes. Back then, I thought the whole point of lifting weights and exercise was just to make your body look the way you wanted to make it look. Like that's all I knew that I could get out of it, which was a great goal, and it was enough reason for me to do it. But that's what I thought the whole point of exercise was to make your body look the way you want to look, make it look strong, put on some muscle, whatever. And now I realize, like decades later, that even though the aesthetics are, that's a great goal and it's a nice effect and stuff, decades of fitness gave me far more valuable things than aesthetics. It gave me health and functionality primarily. And now that's the stuff that I look back on and realize that was the most important thing that I got out of this whole journey, the health
So
and the
true.
functionality.
So
And
true.
that's what I work out for now. That's become, now aesthetics are not like the driving force. Now it's like, how can I move better, remain pain free, have a longer lifespan down the road, to do the things that I want to do, and stay healthy, stay disease free, all that stuff.
That is the exact path that I walked.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody does,
It was like starting around ninth grade until probably, I don't know, 25, where it was really about, looking good,
like an action hero.
like an action, yeah, Rambo, Sylvester
Yeah.
Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Vin Diesel, whoever you want to compare yourself to. But like, yeah, now, and that I coach people from this perspective, and I wish I did this earlier with myself, was basing pretty much everything on performance, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I said this to someone last week, but your body's aesthetic will do what it has to if you are following the bottom of the pyramid, the basics, and gearing it towards improving performance. Your body will shape itself, right? To
It'll
adapt
adapt to
to
the
that.
activity that
Yeah.
you are training for, and
Yes.
you'll begin to look like someone capable of doing that activity because that's what you're
Correct.
training it for, and that's what it's adapting to.
Correct. Exactly. We've seen far too many people and they're walking all over the place. They have an aesthetic, right? The guy might have the big arms and the pecs. But the performance is maybe subpar. Like it's not anything, to be proud of. And so it's not just because you look the role doesn't mean the performance follows,
Mhm.
but generally the your if your performance is high at some level in some capacity, the aesthetic will follow. And again, like that varies from sport to sport, right?
Yep.
Like
Personal.
if you're an ultra runner, you're probably not going to be 225 pounds of muscle.
Right.
If you're a bodybuilder and you want to do a Ironman, it's probably,
Mhm.
so you got to understand sort of what you're chasing for performance and then how your body will react to that, aesthetic wise.
Yep.
Boy,
And I
that's a
I
great
did wanna
point.
throw one, caveat in here though, because I wanted to make sure to say that aesthetics is not a bad goal by any means.
Mhm.
It's a great goal. It's fantastic. It's totally fair for people to want. We all have a body. We'd all like to look a certain way. If you're someone who looks in the mirror and you don't like what you look like and you would like it to look different, it is a perfectly valid and awesome goal to go after aesthetics and try to change your appearance, because one thing is that is how we both started. And if people on hear us say on this podcast like aesthetics isn't the most important thing, don't worry about that, worry about your health and performance and stuff. Some people might see that as like, well, easy for you to say, you guys have six-pack abs, that's nice, just for once in my life I'd like to have that too. And we did start off that way, where aesthetics was the most important thing, and we got the aesthetics we wanted. I got the athletic body shape that I was going for. I got the six pack that I was happy with, and after I achieved those aesthetics that I wanted, I continued on my fitness journey and I got more interested in the health and performance stuff. And down the road, realized that was actually the more important stuff all along.
Yeah.
But I don't want to discount if someone has the goal of reshaping their body, that's awesome and go after that. I just hope that for that person, they stick with fitness long enough that
Yeah.
over the years, they say, I'm glad that I changed my aesthetic and got what I wanted. And I'm glad that I did that. But the real thing that I got out of this was the health and how I feel so much better. And I got off those medications, and man, that's the stuff that really counts in the end. But still, like, nothing wrong with going after aesthetics.
Sure. I think what I'll add to that is I do think though that that person needs to find something performance wise that is motivating and inspiring to them. Because
Oh, sure.
if it is just to lose 20 pounds and to get, thinner legs or whatever, that's it. And
Hmm.
there really is no more buy-in from a performance standpoint.
Hmm.
I don't think it works. I think that person burns out. They do diets up and down. They live on the scale.
Yep.
I think there should be a bigger interest come like Monday morning when you get out of bed and you're like, okay, I'm training for my first 10K, or I'm trying to deadlift, 275. Like I really want people to try to find something, and it
Hmm.
doesn't need to be going to the gym necessarily, that is exciting to them physically, like to
Yep.
be moving and improving performance and also care about the aesthetic. I
Yep.
think you
But
need both.
I will say it's not something they have to figure out quickly. It's
Yes.
okay to start your journey trying to improve your aesthetics. What I find is a lot of people, that might be where they start, but as they're doing workouts for weeks and weeks, months and months, after a couple of years, they really start to enjoy coming to the gym. They start to enjoy, like, oh, I got stronger on that lift. Like at first, they didn't care about how strong they were. Like aesthetics were all they were coming for, but I'm feeling better. Oh, I enjoyed doing that one. Oh, I climbed the rope for the first time. Oh, we went out hiking and I was able to do this mountain that I never thought I'd be able to do. And now all of a sudden, like, the performance piece starts to become more of like, it's like a transition, that they transition into that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like you said, I'd like people to focus more on that performance piece, and the sooner the better. And I like that you're getting them to start thinking about it now. Um, if it happens gradually like that over a period of time, that you kind of fall in love and see the value of fitness after a few months, even though you started for aesthetics, you end up like just enjoying
Mhm.
exercising and moving and performing better. That's one path to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what a topic. That's so great. Good one. Okay. So let's move on. My third one, taking action wins.
Mhm.
So I just see too many people sitting on the sidelines, especially at a young age. So, some examples, what I mean by this is that when it comes to your health and fitness, you can't just be an observer, you have to actually do. And so like you wish you could plant a garden. You want to maybe someday run a 5K. You want to join, CSA, community supported agricultural, to buy healthier food. You want to start rock climbing. Oh, I saw Andy. I wish I could do that. Maybe someday, maybe someday I'll work with a trainer when the time is right. Maybe someday. I see this all the time with people. You have to do it now. The only way to gain wisdom, experience, progress is to do. Like, stop watching the videos and listening to just the podcast. Like, you have to be in the trenches doing. And I wish I did that younger. I was very active and I still am. So, but there's still things where you spin the cycle constantly on thinking of doing it and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. And then you get burnt out and then you don't do it. And then you just go on to something else where you think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it. And that cycle keeps going. But you look back and you say, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I wish I did that. But with health and fitness, I think more people need to jump in. And I don't have any specifics other. I just gave some examples, but I think it'll resonate. Like, you have to be a doer, not just an observer. I don't have a lot more to add on that other than
Well, I'll
it's,
say I'll say like fitness is like everything. It's a microcosm for life, and all these
yeah,
lessons are lessons that apply not just to
yeah.
fitness but to the rest of life. So what went through my mind when you were saying this was I never had this issue that you're talking about here. I always jumped right in because athletics and movement and fitness always came very natural to me ever since I was a very young kid. So I'd be someone that like if I saw a new sport, I was like right in it. And if I saw an
Mhm.
activity I wanted to do like climbing, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do that. If I saw a race that I wanted to do, 15K race, and I've never run more than 3 miles in my life, sign me up for it. I'm gonna go do it. Like I just kind of had this confidence that I'd be able to do it, or maybe crash and burn, but it'd be fun anyway. I'd be able to figure it out. So I never had a problem just jumping in and doing it. But I do have that problem in other areas of life where I'm not gifted in any way or where I lack confidence. It could be work projects, or it could be, I don't know, like business related stuff. In the world of business, I mean, that like taking action and jumping right in is like, don't hesitate. You're very good at that. I don't do business stuff at all. That's not my area. And I would be so hesitant and second guessing myself and trying to figure things out and be frozen by that. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, I see that that's the case for a lot of people getting into fitness. I need to take that advice in other areas. Thankfully, it came easy to me with fitness, but for other people, fitness might be where they hit this stumbling block. Yep. And
Yeah.
jump right in. That's always the best thing to do.
Yeah, just what you said, like how it goes to other areas. And I'm speaking to myself too with that, like not so much in health and fitness, but yeah, for sure. There's a lot of things where I will, over plan, but not do. So I'm trying to now at 42 years old, like I guess you could say a goal or a new habit and like jump in and do that, right? Like last year, I told you when I had finished the Delta Lake Olympic triathlon, I said I want to try the Delta next year. And here I am 4 days out I'm doing the Delta. And by the time this airs, I will have already hopefully done it.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
You will.
I'll
It's
be
going to
I'll
be
be at
awesome.
least I'll be at least starting it. But yeah, I'm trying to say, well, I'm trying to say yes in doing more. I guess you could say not doing more. I'm just, when I commit and I want to see it through instead of be that observer on the sideline. So, yeah.
Good one.
Okay. Number 4 for you, I think, Andy.
Yeah. Let's see. I have intentionality. And what did I mean by that? It's not just about doing something, it's about doing it well. The results you get in fitness, like everywhere in life, are very much a result of your intention. Some people just want to go through the motions and check the box and say, "Oh yeah, I worked out twice this week," or they perform exercises without really being mindful and trying to get the most out of it. It's just like I got to get 8 reps and get through these 8 reps and put it down, whatever. I think it's really important to, I mean, just in life in general, to take pride in what you do. And, if you're going to do something, do it well. There's also that saying that, how you do one thing in life is how you do everything. But yeah, just, I'm encouraging people to take pride in what they do and, um, and try to actually do it well and get the most out of it. You know, if these goals that you have in health and fitness are important to you, then give your fitness program the respect that it deserves, and going there with an intention, a clear goal, and actually perform to the best of your ability every
Yeah.
day, every rep, consistently
Yeah.
through time. That's something that I learned over the years. In the beginning, you just don't know that because I don't know, you're just going in there just experimenting and stuff. And I've learned to really, and I learned it young, that if I really focused and tried to do things well, I would get better results than if I did it kind of haphazardly. But, I've just learned that, I've just seen that be the case more and more over the decades. And I realize how important that is now.
Taking a vested interest beyond just being told what to do without thinking about maybe some of the more details, like why are we doing
Mhm.
this, or asking some of those questions. I think, yeah, I just explained that a few weeks ago to, I don't know who it was, a client here, about like a mature client versus maybe, the beginner client. Like the mature client that's been around is more intentional
Mhm.
around that, and they are treating the program with respect and optimizing it instead of just like you said, getting to rep 8 and like, it was 30% effort, whatever, what's next, 2 more sets,
I'm in
I
the
got it,
gym
I gotta
working out,
go.
but I'm thinking
Yeah.
about something else,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. And, this is like, it goes back to the talk about like form and stuff and technique that we had before. Like, I've learned to value, perfecting that stuff more and more. It's funny that I put this one in because it's not one that I struggled with too much, because by nature, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which can be a problem in itself. But I'm also glad that I at least value doing things really well. Like when I set out to do something, I get like kind of obsessed and focused on it, and I want to figure out how to do it the right way. And I'm glad that I have that in me, because I've seen now over the years how much that has separated me from the people who don't really have that and aren't focused on doing things well. And
Yes.
so I guess this one wasn't really a lesson I had to learn for myself so much as just something that over the last 20 years I've seen be the case, and now I see it more clearly than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. All right. Number 4 for me, the importance of setting exciting goals, working towards them, and accomplishing something actually
Mhm.
worthwhile in your heart.
Yep.
I think about like what keeps me motivated and happy. I'm overall a pretty motivated and happy guy. Maybe some of that's genetic, I don't know, but I work really hard on looking forward to the next thing that excites me. Like
Mhm.
I line my life up to where and it's not like the next big vacation. Like I don't
All
even
right.
hardly do vacations. I probably should, but whether it's hunting season or a race or, like a fishing trip, like something where there's like the race I'm doing this weekend, it's really exciting. And then I have something lined up after that, like there's sort of like this, I think depression, anxiety, some of these, mental health issues really is because we're lacking hope and excitement for the future. I
Mhm.
really think that I heard this quote a few months ago at church. It was in Proverbs, and I wrote it down, and I will never forget this. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life.
Mm.
And I was thinking about that. Like, how many of us are putting off the exciting, the inspiring, the motivating things, the goals that they wish they sort of could go after? And
Mhm.
instead, they just get up Monday, they hit snooze, they go to work, and they repeat this cycle of, monotony. And if I were to ask that person, what's the big thing like you're looking forward to right now in life?
Mhm.
I don't know what, I think the percentage would be depressingly high of the people that don't have a whole lot to look forward to.
Yeah.
And,
Just trying to
again,
get through the week.
I think it's so big, like to opt out of the Groundhog's Day and opt in for spontaneity.
Mhm.
I heard Michael Easter, he was on Andrew Huberman the other day, and Andrew asked him, like, what's the big secret, right? And he said, you have to chase adventure. You
Hmm.
have to, and he doesn't mean extreme sports. Like you need to just get out of your rut.
Yep.
And like we need to be, I look at my life and like the majority of things that made me nervous or were pretty big were
Hmm.
all of the things that developed me. And then looking back were awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like now I'm reaching out into like the fall of 2026. I'm planning a trip, big do it yourself hunting trip in Alaska. I'm going to go with a friend. We're going to go after caribou and moose. It's going to be pretty far out there
Hmm.
and it's going to take a year to plan that, but it's inspiring. It's awesome. Like there's so much there. The fitness has to be in order, right? Your gear has to be in order. I don't know. I think just the exciting goals in health and fitness should be something that people are somewhat going after and checking a box on.
Yeah, yeah. I figured you'd have this one on there because you talk about goal setting and having things to look forward to, exciting goals quite a lot,
Yeah.
in the gym and with people. Yeah, and that's it's just such a big thing. You're right. A lot of people don't have like something that they're really striving towards, and that's sad. That is a sad place to be. I think we're at our happiest or life feels the most meaningful when we have something that we're striving towards, something that we're aiming for, whatever that is for you. And it can change, and there could be something this year that you're going for and then a new thing next year and stuff. But the important thing is to kind of have something on the horizon,
Yeah.
something to excite you, to give life meaning and to make life fun and make it, an adventure, a bit of a challenge. And then you're right, like all of those things you go for, they're going to take some work. It takes less energy to stay stuck in your rut and just
Yeah.
do the
Yes.
day-to-day groundhog day things.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some work and more energy to change things up and actually go after something. But then when you look back at your life, all the times you did that are always like the times that you're like, oh, that was like the best time of my life, and that and that and
So
that. Like
true.
those are all the times that you were happiest and like life actually meant something. It felt like it was
Yeah.
going somewhere.
And I want to emphasize like just because you're listening to what we're talking about with this specific topic is doesn't mean like you have to go out and force this. Like this has to come from your heart.
Mhm.
Like deep inside, it's exciting, inspiring, motivating, like something that you're like pumped, right?
Yeah.
Like if you got the call today and it was for XYZ, you would just put everything down and go.
Mhm.
Like you got to find that,
So it
and
takes
if
a
you
little bit of
don't,
soul searching, because if you ask people what that thing is for them, a lot of people are gonna be like, I don't know. Like I don't know what excites me, or I don't know what I really want to do.
well,
Like you gotta do some soul searching and get clear on that.
I think what I would do in that situation, and I agree, I think there's a lot of people that can't answer that. You have to do something. I
Right.
think like you have to choose something and then go off of that. That was
Mhm.
awesome. That wasn't awesome. I met this person, they connected me with this, or while I was doing this thing that I didn't really like, I noticed and enjoyed this part of it.
Mhm.
There's this whole evolution of like peeling the layers of the onion back.
Yep, because I'll say achieving goals is something that is addictive and satisfying and fulfilling and leads you to creating other goals. So in the beginning, maybe you say, I don't really have anything that I'm excited for. I don't know. I don't want to do. Okay, well then we don't have to set an exciting goal, something that you're really like pumped to go for. Let's just set a goal. And maybe it's
Yes.
something that like is like, whatever. It's something you're not thrilled by or whatever, but let's set a goal and let's
Yeah.
achieve that. Achieving a goal feels good, it's fulfilling, and you're gonna be like, okay, well then let's set another goal and achieve that. And then it's like, you get the ball rolling, and then eventually you're inspired to, oh, actually there's this one thing that like
Yep.
that would be really cool. And you
Yep.
start having things that you're excited for, and you can start setting goals that really interest you and they're exciting to you.
So to add to that, two examples that I've heard time and time again, like so with the Brookfield Classic race, how
Mhm.
many people come up to you? I know they have with me a lot, and they're like, oh, I didn't know if I wanted to do it, but I did
Yeah.
it anyways. And oh, I
Yep.
was so nervous. This is all at the finish line, right?
Yep.
Now the dopamine is high, you accomplish something. This person is hooked, like they're on a drug.
Hmm.
everything leading up to that was like, shit, maybe I should just stay home today,
Yeah, yeah,
And the second piece I have a lot of examples from is when we did that retreat in Costa Rica. We took 16 people down to Costa Rica, which is a pretty big feat to organize and do that. And we did it and it was great. And I'd love to do it again. Maybe we will. But there was a few stories, really touching stories that came out of that retreat, life-changing stories where these people were able to get out of the day to day, clear their mind for 7 days in one of the most beautiful locations on earth. They're around awesome people. They're eating healthy. They're waking up to nature, and their life changed forever after. And
yep,
for two of these examples, it was just from mini conversations, like 5 minutes and under, where something was said that reoriented and reframed everything for them,
yeah,
and their life has never been the same,
yep.
but
Just
they
because
wouldn't
they
have
decided
had
to.
that. They wouldn't have had that
Yep.
unless they said, "Oh shit, I'm gonna put the deposit down and I gotta,
Let's
fly
let's
an
let's let's
international
do
flight."
something. Let's put, I'm in a rut. Let's put something on the calendar and see
Yes,
what comes of this, and
yes,
that led to, yep, all that change for them. Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Okay, number 5 for you, right? Last one?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, this is what my wife threw this in when I told her we were doing this episode, because so this one is perseverance is the word that I wrote down. And embracing the highs and lows. But we took a, 4th of July weekend just went by, and we went up into the Adirondacks. We hiked a small mountain. It was only like a mile to the top and a mile back down. Cane Mountain. You've done that
Yeah,
fire tower at the top, yeah.
yeah.
We hiked that with a couple of our friends and their little girl. She's 5, 6 years old now, I think. So her experience inspired my wife to give us this topic here, because she was whining the whole time. Like, it's a struggle for them to get her to hike this mountain. They have their camp right next to it and they try to get her to do it a lot, but every time it's she wants to stop every 50 feet and rest. She
Mhm.
starts whining. She wants to go back down. It was hot, it was humid, it was buggy. You're going uphill, so it's hard. I mean, there was a lot of just, it's a battle to, like, just keep encouraging her, and, oh, let's see what's around the next corner, and, like, oh, you can do it, like, when you get there it's going to be worth it, like, do you remember the fire tower at the top and how fun that is? Like, we're going to go see that again, like, lots of encouragement. And when we did reach the top, she was all smiles, all of a sudden full of energy. She wanted to be the first one to lead us up the fire tower, and she's showing me around, and, like, there's really pretty ferns up here, and all, pointing things out to me, like. And you know so much fulfillment and so much happiness to the top. And then we were telling her, like, oh, so it's all worth it, like, it's a good thing that we kept going, like, we wanted to stop and turn around, but if we did that we wouldn't be here right now, like, and look at this view. And she's, yeah, she was internalizing that. But so I guess the lesson there was just, like, the fitness journey is definitely not going to be an easy road, and there's going to be tons of highs and lows, and little injuries will happen, and frustrations will pop up all over the place. And but the perseverance is worth it, because you eventually reach that summit, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm really glad that I did that thing, even though it was such a rocky road and I wanted to stop so many times.
Yeah, man, is that true? I think that if the goal is right and your intentions are in the right place, you will or you should work through that.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to find the motivation to persevere if you didn't set that goal for the right reason, which we see
Uh-huh.
that, right?
Yep.
Maybe to prove something to friends or social media or whatnot. With this girl, obviously it was a struggle, something new out of her comfort zone. But man, she got that feeling at the end, like, holy cow, that was worth that.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And
and that
this is
is,
something I wouldn't have known when I was just starting out, because
yeah,
I didn't have to persevere early on. I was just trying things and experimenting and playing around and stuff. But eventually I got, more and more goals. There was a race that I wanted to run in a certain time, or some movement that I wanted to learn how to do. And then you eventually start hitting some sticking points, you hit some
yeah,
plateaus, and your first time hitting plateaus is like like what is this? Like I started working
Yeah.
out and I was getting results and now I'm like, why is it not working anymore? Like, and you run into all these roadblocks. And if you persevere, if you like keep working and trying to find ways around and find the solutions to these roadblocks that you're stumbling over, and you
Hmm.
get through them, that's over time you accumulate this wisdom that, oh, perseverance is really important. Like there are going to be these roadblocks, but I can find my way through them and get
Hmm.
to where I want to be. But
I think,
I didn't realize how much that was going to be a factor in fitness until
yeah.
I went through that several times.
Oh yeah. I think giving yourself permission to be in the low is huge, because if you don't, you won't persevere out of the low, you're quit, and then you just go on to something different, chasing the high, chasing the high, chasing the high. But I always say, there's 4 seasons for a reason. And so if your training gets to a spot where it's in winter, I just explained this to a close friend that does our Brookfield Classic. She's in winter right now. Spring will come.
Mhm.
And then, you're going to hit your next milestone and peak. And then, you're stagnate a little. And then, there'll be another winter. And winters don't have to be horrible or catastrophic, but maybe it's not setting the next record.
Right.
And like alpha, very high driven people, goal oriented, that can be hard, especially as we get older. Weights aren't going up, times might not get faster.
Right.
But like, first off, that's life, but like, that doesn't mean you should stop. You should persevere. You should
Yep.
just keep training, maybe do things something
And there might
slightly
need to be a
different.
goal shift there. If
Yes.
you're in your 60s and going into your 70s, and like you said, lifts aren't going up, PRs aren't going up, times aren't getting faster. If your goal at that age in life is to run your next PR marathon and beat your time from when you were 20, you probably have the wrong goal, and that's not
Yeah.
the goal to persevere towards. But so get your
Yes.
goal correct first. To maintain, maybe to maintain as much strength as possible decade after decade, or to maintain as much of my running speed as I can as I go into the next decade, like, or something, and then persevere towards that goal.
Yeah.
Make sure it's the
Yeah.
right goal.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's good stuff. All right. Last one for me. Understand your athlete essence as young as possible. So, what does this mean? I'm sure you probably know. I've talked to Jesse and a lot of people about this. James Fitzgerald explained this to me years ago, and I've never ever forgot this. So we'll give the example of like what James would say is a buffalo versus a jaguar body type. And we all have specific body types, right? Some are more hybrid, but I think this is going to relieve a lot of people listening to what I'm about to say for certain reasons. But a buffalo likes to go long distances slowly, more enduring. And then a jaguar likes to sprint, is powerful, and then it needs rest. And so, from a body type perspective, you could think of a buffalo being more of an endurance based athlete, and then a jaguar more of a strong and stocky individual.
Yep,
And
power
so
based.
why is this important? Because it dictates where you should be training and probably your interest levels, right? So like if you are a jaguar and all of your friends are doing a half Ironman and it is miserable and it sucks for you because it's the wrong goal. You're not a buffalo. And so if you are a buffalo and you're more of an endurance based body type and you're signing up for powerlifting competitions, you're, 6'3", 170 pounds, and you're lifting with guys that are 5'6" and 220,
Mhm.
you're in the jaguar category. And so someone listening to this may be like, well, I have really no idea what I am. So the example that I give here is to ask yourself, would you rather jog a 10K today, right now, or go deadlift and lift weights? That's a really basic one, right? There's many, many examples of this, but like your body type does gravitate to something more so than others. For you and I, it's quite obvious. We played soccer, we do endurance-based sports. Obviously, we weightlift and we still do jaguar activities, but we're definitely not going to excel there like we will in the other category. And so when I consult with clients, I ask them, like, what kind of training do you like? And a lot of them don't know. And then I give this example, like, would you rather do a 45-minute CrossFit circuit with biking, rowing, and some body weight exercises? Or do you want to lift heavier weights and take longer rests? And everyone knows the answer to that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Everyone, and it's
Yep.
amazing. It's not like a male female thing. It's not a age thing. You definitely gravitate. Or on a weekend, what would you rather do? Like go biking, or I don't know, like, yeah, go to the gym, lift weights, whatever it is. Or would you rather do a another example I give, would you rather do a 10-minute really intense workout, like you're just balls out redlining and be done? Or would you rather do a 60-minute to 2 hour event, slow and grind? And a lot of people know the answer to that. It's really, really interesting. And so I wish I knew that I was a buffalo. I have some jaguar type tendencies because I have trained fast twitch, type muscle fibers in the past. But generally, I'm much better longer, slower, more enduring than I am short and powerful. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what I will say is, I like how you said understand your athlete essence. That's the thing, is be aware of what it is. Learn what it is. It's important to know yourself and know your body and accept your accept what your physiology is and what it isn't. But I will say, I don't think that you should let your athlete essence, your innate physiology dictate your goals. So for
Right.
example, you've got someone who's 5'6", a boy who's 5'6", a college age guy who's 5'6", and he wants to play basketball. I'm
Mhm.
not going to tell him like, no, you can't play basketball. Like, you have to go play, I don't know, soccer, because shorter people play soccer.
Mhm.
Basketball's for tall people. That's not your athlete essence. You can't go do that. Like, or I do know people who are more the jaguar type. They've always been like into like power sports and
Mhm.
sprinting and stuff like that, but they get an interest and a hankering for like going and doing like an ultra marathon.
Mhm.
Our friend Bob is like
Yeah.
bodybuilder, like super. I guess I would say kind of like what looks like jaguar. Bob's got everything. He's both. He's like a hybrid
Yeah.
animal.
That's
But in
true.
any case, but then he like gets excited about ultra running and goes and pursues that. Will he ever be like the best ultra runner? He's a big dude, like the best ultra runners are like, rail thin,
Yep.
the stick figure Kenyan marathon runner body types. But the important thing is he knows his body type and
Yep.
he knows what he can expect of it. And he doesn't expect himself to be the best in the world and be able to compete against, people who are half his size in a sport where you're carrying your body over 100 miles. So you don't have to let your athlete essence, your nature dictate your goals. You can still do what interests you and excites you, but understand what your essence is so that you can have realistic expectations for yourself in whatever it is that you're pursuing.
That's a great point. I think for sure when it comes to setting your goals and what's inspiring, I think knowing your athlete essence helps with that
Mhm.
because you don't want to be chasing a buffalo goal if you're a jaguar and the buffalo goal isn't inspiring, right?
Right.
If it is, then by all means do it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're 5'6" and you love basketball and you want to try to play, D3, college hoops and whatnot, like definitely do that. But if playing basketball is a dread and it sucks, and just because your friends do it or you were told you should do it, understand that, maybe you're probably much better in other
Well,
areas.
that might be like the kid who's 6'6" or 6'7", and everyone tells him you have to go play basketball. You're made for this, and he's like, I
Yes.
don't like
Yes.
basketball. Like, I don't want to do, but like plays anyway because everyone tells him that's what you're made for. That's what you're
Yeah.
designed for. You have to go do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
So
warning people against that.
the examples we're giving there is more structural. The athlete essence piece is, like
You're
we're
talking about more like what excites you and what drives you, what you're interested in.
well, like fast twitch, slow twitch,
Okay.
right? So
Yep.
like, for listeners, fast twitch, short, powerful, explosive, slow twitch, long and enduring. And so that's sort of the foundational piece. And then everything can stem off that, obviously. But no, that's a great reminder. We're not saying don't go on the other side. I like
Yeah.
both. I've
If you're
done
all
both.
slow twitch, but you want to sprint, like, hey, if that excites you, go for it and do that. Yep. It's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, even with this, even though I'm mostly slow twitch, you know, by no means am I high level slow twitch, right? Like it's just what I gravitate more towards.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, no,
It's not a black and white. I mean, people have a little bit of everything in them, I mean,
for sure.
yep.
For sure. All right. Anything else you want to add, bud, before we wrap this up? This is a long one, but this is a good one.
No, that's my whole list we covered. Yep. I'm good. That was great. I thought that was an awesome episode.
Yeah, sweet. So thanks for everyone tuning in. Check us out, co-movement.com, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, Andy.
Yep. See you later. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting our sponsors, Native Path Supplements and Lombardi Chiropractic. Your support helps us to bring you 2 new episodes each month. See the show notes for more details and a nice discount from our sponsors. Thank you, and see you next time on the Co-Movement Gym podcast.